We are in chapter 7 and we are learning about the South and North America. In chapter 6, we learn about the Mesoamerican civilizations. And most recently, we learned in section 1 of this chapter, chapter 7, about the Peruvian cultures. And in the Peruvian cultures, we learn about the Inca Empire and their contributions to world history. And we also learn about the pre-Inca civilizations. These are the Nazca, the Wari, the Sican, and other tribes and cultures that contributed to the molding of these famous Inca civilizations in modern day Peru. And today we'll pick up our lesson in the northern side of the Americas. Go ahead, have your books ready or log into our website. And from our website, launch Clever. And from Clever, go ahead, find Cengage Learning, which would be on the left side of your screen. And you will need to log in with your student account and password. And it will lead you to the NGL sync. And from the left side, you will see that there are units, and it's in Unit 3, Chapter 7, and Section 2, Lesson 1, and it is in pages 186 to 187. Okay, so let's go straight to the essential question of this chapter. So in this chapter, the essential question is, in what ways do civilizations adapt to the environments in which they live? And the objective of this lesson, the specific objective of this lesson, is to explore the Native American cultures of the Northwest Coast. The Northwest Coast cultures use resources of their environment for food and shelter as well as travel. So this lesson will explain how these cultures adapted to their ocean and forest environment. There are so many tribes in the region, and we will just talk about the most popular. There are about 30 distinct cultures that lived in the Pacific Northwest region. And this is the narrow strip of mountains and woodland follow the coast of the present day Northern California to Alaska. It is one of the most densely populated parts of the area. So the lakes, rivers, and ocean provided fish, shellfish, and whales. Yes, whales. In the past, it was, well, not illegal to hunt whales in the past. So the forest offered plentiful plants and game. So with such abundance, population grew and complex societies developed without any need to farm. So along the southern coast of what is now the state of Alaska, the Tlingit people developed a thriving culture that was closely tied to the Pacific Ocean and many rivers. In fact, the word Tlingit means the people of the tides, the ocean. The Tlingit were superb sailors and fishers, and their most important food was salmon. In the Pacific Northwest, it rains a lot, and as a result, wood was abundant. So the Tlingit culture around AD 500 developed tools for splitting and carving wood. With those tools, they were able to build permanent homes and crafted everyday necessities such as plates and other utensils that they use for their kitchens and other work that they need to do. They also developed tools and fire that carve out canoes from logs. And these canoes, some as long as 60 feet, were seaworthy, meaning they can sail farther and could, miles beyond the Pacific Ocean, allowing the Tlingit to hunt for whales. Besides the Tlingit, there are two other important Northwest Coast tribes. So these are the Kwaki, Utal, and the Haida. So they live in the south of the Tlingit. Both live by hunting and gathering, but settled in permanent villages. They use the forest, cedar trees, to build large family houses like the Tlingit. They also build excellent sea-going canoes. So over time, trade allowed some families to become wealthy and the social classes developed. So social rank became hereditary, and certain families had great influence because of their wealth and ancestry. So these families demonstrated shared wealth through gift giving ceremonies called potlatches, in which they gave away gifts and food to their communities. Well, unlike other civilizations in the Americas, they really don't have that rigid, complex social structure, say, for example, just like the Aztecs or the Maya or the Inca. So, for some reason, for better or for worse, this allowed them to thrive and survive culture wise for a long time. And now let's talk about totem poles and mask. So, since they are skillful wood carving people, this culture were able to develop this complex pieces of artworks, of course, with the purpose of worship and their way of revering their ancestors and also appreciating the gifts that were given to them by the gods that they worship, the environment, the ocean, the bodies of waters, and the woods, and things like that. So they have a strong belief in the natural and spirit world. So one example of their ancestry is found in the intricate masks they carved and painted and then wore at ceremonies. A shaman, or a person who is believed to be able to help others communicate with the spirit world, guided the mask carving that led the ceremonies. A shaman is like an advisor or a priest, a combination of tribe leaders sometimes. And obviously, in other civilizations, the person who can communicate to the gods most likely will occupy an important position in the community or the society. Totem poles are another example of Northwest Coast wood carving artistry. Totem poles are tall, elaborate carved and painted tree trunks that honor a revered being or guardian associated with a family. Totem pole carving included colorful representations of animals of the region, such as bears, whales, and eagles. And other carvings included human figures, such as the chiefs or ancestors and supernatural spirits. So these poles told stories and legends as well as family and tribal histories. So wood rots easily in the region because it's damp. It rains a lot. So a few totem poles have survived more than 100 years. So, however, totem pole carving remains a Northwest Coast tradition even today. Now let's take a look at this photograph of totem poles. So these modern totem poles in south eastern Alaska demonstrate Northwest Coast culture's wood carving tradition. The question is, what features do you see on these totem poles? What are the things that you see here, the images that you see in these totem poles? Okay, now let's go to the review and assess questions. For number one, reading check, in what ways did geography of the Pacific Northwest influence the culture of the Tlingit people? And number two, draw conclusions. What was the function of the potlatch in the Kwaki and Haida societies? What's the purpose of this potlatch? And that is for number two. Number three, evaluate what role did the totem poles and masks play in the cultures of the Pacific Northwest tribes. Okay, so this time I want you to go to our Google Classroom and open the Chapter 7 section to review and assess assignment. And in the first slide, you will put the answers to those questions that I just read a while ago. Don't forget to fill up the last name, first name, class period, and date. And our key vocab is shaman. So you will put the definition of shaman on the right side of the slide in the box. And of course, don't forget the title of this lesson and the answers on the right side as well. And the correct answers using your own words in complete sentences will give you the full credit. Okay, class, so that is our first lesson in section 2, the Northwest Coast Cultures, chapter 7, section 2.1.